well-established Rich coming right back at you. JCole has decided to turn his attention away from rappers and aim it at podcasters. He says sit behind microphones and gossip about hip-hop. He says profit off other people's stories instead of making their own music. And the problem with that message is who it's coming from. Because JCole is a man who spent years asking to be crowned the best rapper alive. Who spent years on features telling us he was the greatest MC of this generation. He spent years letting us believe he was ready for the smoke. But when the smoke came, he apologized. And ever since that moment, the podcast world has not let him forget it. Joe Budden talked about it. Fat Joe talked about it. NFL talked about it. Every hip-hop platform has talked about it. And now Cole is mad at people talking about it. But here's the question. When you spend years telling people you the best, are they not allowed to discuss you? When you position yourself as number one, are people not allowed to debate that? When you say you want to be in the big three, are podcasters not allowed to debate who belongs? That's the part he don't like. He like the praise, but he don't like the commentary. He loves when podcasts call him a genius, but he hates it when they call him out. You can't ask to be number one and then get mad when people start ranking you. And the crazy part is, on the same project, he praises the podcast culture. He gives a shout out to the older generation of hip hop talk, but then calls them gossipers in the next breath. Which one is it? Are they important to the culture or are they bums with microphones? Are we elders or clowns? Because you can't have it both ways.
JCole, I don't look at him the same. He ain't come outside. Sometimes you tell me, Joe, you want the 100 million, this, that, you got to say the truth. I don't look at him the same. The fucking sword is dull. I don't care what he spit. Because I've been listening to him spitting. I always said he's one of the greatest. And all that is irrelevant to me when you talking all that gangster shit and they call you to the yard and you don't step outside. I can't look at you. That's like you seeing the dude who they always told you, and you always thought he was tough. And you see some other kingpin nigga, some smack his cheek off and the nigga, my bad, and walk off. I'm keeping it a buck with you.
If it didn't sit right with his soul and his heart and his spirit, and if you wasn't up for the task, I'm not with the cosplaying.
Salute.
Cosplaying is over now. Be who the fuck you niggas are. So if that's who he is, which many people suspected that that's who he is, or who he was, which is why we thought he should stop barking up certain fucking trees because they may fall. And then when they fall, you get up there and do this at your festival with your fans and your people. That one move. Now I got to think of the position that you put everybody in. Because I'm hearing nobody even knew about that final track on your project. Not a soul. Top secret. Cole lost me. I don't want to ruin my image of Cole. I still have Cole as the best rapper today. And if I feel like when them lights get bright in Beefland, he can't deliver on my.
Somewhere along the way, I hate to say we lost shame. Grown men peddling gossip of all things. I remember when it was rapping a bar playing. Now the bread and butter is yapping and parlaying. Oh man, your name's a big conversation. Max deals for Luka Doncic, lobbing and hating. Though nowadays you can make a grip commentating if you master true skills, either dick riding or hating.
And we all know who he talking about. He wasn't talking about nobodies. He wasn't talking about small podcasters. He was talking about Joe Budden and people like him. But he won't say their name. He'll throw the rock and he'll hide his hand. That's J. Cole style. He'll say just enough to make everybody know, but never enough to stand on it. And that's why people are so frustrated. Because if you feel that way, say it with your chest. Call them out. Name names. Don't send subtweets in rap form and then act like you above it. And this is where it gets interesting. Because the podcasters ain't saying he can't rap. Nobody is questioning his pen. Nobody is questioning his catalog. They're questioning his decision. And he knows it. They're questioning the apology, not the talent. And he don't like it because he can't rap his way out of that. He can rap his way out of criticism about balls, but he can't rap his way out of that moment. And that moment is why the podcasters keep talking.
I think with Jermaine is he ain't never actually saying shit. He's just good at rhyming. And that's how he gets over on y'all. Is that he's really good at putting a rhyme scheme together. Putting very intricate words together and making them rhyme. But he's never actually saying shit worth listening to.
Now, he got a problem with YouTubers peddling gossip. He wasn't saying that when he was calling you the greatest. When everybody was talking about your verse on Johnny P's Caddy and this, that, and the third, you ain't had no problem with YouTubers then. Now he got a problem. Even you YouTubers that's up and down in your chair, giddy gumdrops, he's talking about your ass too. He said either you hating or you dick riding. And figure out which one y'all doing right now.
What you just heard is exactly what J. Cole is mad about. Not gossip, analysis, not lies, discussion, not hate. Hip-hop talk, and he wants it to stop without ever addressing why it started. That's what we really looking at. A rapper who wants the respect, but don't want the scrutiny. He wants a title, but he don't want the debate. He know hip-hop don't work like that. You can't be the best and be undiscussable. You can't be great and be untouchable, because the moment you say you number one, you enter the argument. And JCole wants to lead the argument, but still keep the position. And that's why he's shooting at podcasters. Not because they lying, but because they reminding people of what happened. What this is really about is a moment that JCole cannot erase, and the internet will not let him forget it. Because when 7 Minute Drill dropped, the world expected war, not a retraction. Hip-hop was ready, the culture was ready, and Cole was the one who hit reverse.
A lot of y'all, I moved in a way that I feel spiritually feel bad on me. Like I try to jab my nigga back, and I try to keep it friendly, but at the end of the day, when I listen to it and when it comes out and I see the talk, that shit don't sit right with my spirit. That shit make me feel, that shit disrupts my fucking peace.
That's the part people keep skipping. It's not that he apologized, it's when he apologized. Before anybody responded, before any damage was done. He pulled himself out of a fight he walked into. And podcasters did what they do. They talked about it. They didn't create the moment, they reacted to it. And Cole is mad at the reaction instead of the action. Cole wanted the crown without the fight. And podcasters keep reminding people of that exact fact. That's why this bothers him, because he can't undo it. His new album is gonna be fire. I know it. But that moment stays on your record. And every time a podcast mentions it, it feels like a replay. And he don't like replays of that night. But here's what makes this even crazier. The same podcasters he's calling gossipers are the same ones who kept him in the Big Three conversation for years. The same ones who defended him. The same ones who called him elite. Now they asking one question and he wants some quiet. That's not fair. You can't enjoy the praise and hate the critique. You can't love podcast culture until it turns on you. And this is where he starts sounding emotional, not logical. Because he ain't mad they lying. He mad they right. They're not inventing a story. They're revisiting history. And he wants history erased without addressing it. And that's why this podcast diss feels like deflection, not strength. He's shooting at commentators instead of owning the moment. And hip-hop can smell that a mile away. Real MCs stand on what they do, good or bad, win or lose. And deep down, he know that. That's why he didn't name names. That's why he kept it vague. That's why he said gossiping podcasters instead of saying Fat Joe or Joe Budden. Because if he says Joe Budden, now it's a conversation. Now he has to stand on it. Now it's direct. And JCole don't like direct. He likes implied. He likes suggested. He likes hinted. But this ain't a game. This is hip-hop. And hip-hop don't respect hints. It respects say it with your chest, or don't say it at all. But don't throw shade and act like you above it. Because right now you look hurt, not honorable. And that's what podcasters are really talking about. Not his talent, his response. And that's a conversation he can't rap his way out of. Listen, I don't even think this is about podcasters. This is about image control. This is about JCole realizing he can't control the narrative anymore. Because for years, he controlled how people saw him. The humble guy, the everyman, the relatable MC, the quiet killer. But the moment he apologized, that image cracked. And the podcast kept showing that crack every week, every month. They didn't let it fade. They kept it alive. Not out of hate, but out of memory. Something like that had never happened before. Hip-hop has a memory, and podcasts are the archive. They replay moments. They revisit history. Cole don't like how that history sounds. So now he calls us gossipers like we invented the story. But we ain't invent nothing. We just press play. And that's what's hurting him, the replay button, because he can't rap his way out of that one decision. And here's the part that makes this whole thing ironic. On the same project, he's shouting out podcasters, giving flowers to the OGs of the space, but then calling others gossipers, which tells you this is personal. This ain't a podcast take. This is a Joe Budden tape. This is a Fat Joe tape. This is a culture tape. He's mad at who's saying it, not what's being said. And that's human, but it ain't hip-hop, because hip-hop don't care who said it. Hip-hop cares if it's true. And the truth is simple. He stepped into a fight and stepped back out. And podcasters said, we saw that. He wants them quiet about what we all saw. That's not gossip. That's documentary. That's hip-hop history. And he don't like how history remembers him. But here's the part he don't realize. Podcasters didn't take him out. They kept him in. They kept saying he can rap. He's still great. He's still elite. But he's just not number one. Yeah, he great, but that butt eats his ass up. And he thinks they're the problem. When really, that moment is the problem. He wants to shoot the messengers instead of owning the message. And that's why this whole thing feels off. Because the energy is directed the wrong way. He should have aimed that at his decision. But it's easier to aim it at the podcast. Because podcasts can't diss back. Podcasts can't drop a record. Podcasts, we just talk. And he mad that talk is louder than his rap. That's the real issue. Not gossip, not commentary. But the fact that words last. And podcasts don't forget. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.